First of all, a very happy Independence Day, sir, on behalf of whole Voice for India. And I find immense pleasure in introducing you as an honorable guest for today. Uh, so, uh, Talking about Anil sir's with this, sir, he has worked as a professor at IIT Guwahati as an administrator in the capacity of director in College of Engineering, Pune. He has taken up several new initiatives for academics, curricular and co-curricular activities, entrepreneurship, research, and good governance. Presently, the chairman of All India Council for Technical Education is none other than, Dr. Anil Sahaswardhe. So we are really thankful to you for taking out time from your busy schedule to be present and to be part of this event. I would request you to enlighten our audience and all of us present here with your words of wisdom.
Yeah,
So well, I guess, go
yeah,
on with the
Shonali,
details of
one,
yeah.
yeah, Shonali, one thing we need to mention to Anil sir. Sir, we have Dr. Sujoy Biswas sir in the line. You both are having the duo panel. So, sir will be coordinating with you, and we hope that this session will be very great. So, Sujoy sir, now the stage is yours. You can go on, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir.
Good afternoon, Shashwardhe sir.
Good afternoon, Sujoy ji.
Sir,
ভালো আছে ভালো আছে
হ্যাঁ স্যার ভালো আছি আপনি ভালো আছেন আছেন Sir, I think you remembered me in Techno India University last year during the hackathon and all the times when you came here for that.
I know, I remember.
Now I'm thankful to Ankit and his team that he has made me the voice of India, and I am representing Voice of India.
Sir, we are grateful to have you, sir. You are taking the time from your busy schedule. We are grateful to have both of you in the panel.
Sir, just we finished a debate with Professor Kapil Kumar, and continuing from that, coming to you, it's a pleasure and an honor also to ask questions to you even. Sir, I'll continue from the debate itself. We had a long debate, a long talk, and this is the 74th day of independence. So from 52, we are going to 75, and it has been a long journey. Independence has been a long journey. India has matured over the years. Good or bad, I really do not know. Would like to know from you. But my question right at this point of time, on this very day, which is the day of the birth of Sri Aurobindo also, that whether the youth of India should be joining politics or not, should they be interested, why they are not that interested, and should they be interested, and why they should be interested, and if yes, why, and if no, why. Sir, it's from you, who has led in several movements right from your childhood to till today.
I think the choice of whether someone wants to join politics or not should be left to that individual. I think both, if you want to join politics is also good, if you don't want to join politics is also good. But whatever you want to do, you have to be focused, you have to be committed, you have to be passionate about that. In that case, whatever field we choose, we can be successful in that, and we can contribute very effectively to the polity of the nation. And therefore, my advice is, depending on right from your childhood, the way you are brought up, the basic attributes that you have as a personality, if you fit into politics, I think you must go. So good people must come to the politics. It's not that it's something which is to be left to someone else. But if you don't like that, and if you have more creative work to be done, more engineering type of work to be done, managerial work done, or some official work done, I think, and I don't want to be part of it, it's fine. That also is equally fine, actually.
Sir, I have just one query from myself and from Voice of India. We find have political opinions. Youth have political opinions, strong opinions, which they are sharing in the social media and all. But when it comes to active politics, then people are not interested. That's what I find, and that what is something, because at the end of the day, though the administrative officers shape the policy of the nation, but it's the people at the helm of political affairs who keep on. So from our side, we felt that, but we find people are not that interested. So I duly humbly accept your words that whatever the person, but why people are, or people who are sharing so much of comments, so much of ideas, so much of views on the social media about politics are not coming to politics directly.
So I think very interestingly, if you have to jump into politics, that is a difficult game. probably much more difficult than any other professions. Whereas giving comments or opinions is much easier. On the side tracks, by sitting on the wheelchair, you can roll out your opinions and ideas is much easier to do than actually on the field, because the challenges that the politicians face are immense. Actually, we only see one side of the story, that they are enjoying some VIP car or something like that, but the kind of work effort that they have to do, the number of hours that they have to spend to be in reckoning. Someone who is just like that time pass wala different hai. But if you have to be in the real game, actually to win the elections is not easy. It's not just money. So people think that if money is there, you can win elections. No, you have to have lots of characteristics, including a lot of memory. Their memory I have found to be much more than ours actually, because they have to remember thousands of people, their names, their background, their families. And when someone comes in contact, they have to relate and then talk. And only then people will vote for them. I think that's a different ball game, and therefore not everyone will fit into it. And probably because of that, many people may not be joining that. But that does not mean citizenry who has and who have opinion. I think that is good, because in order to course correct some kind of a, what we call in our Hindi or Sanskrit, on Indian languages is Ankush. So see, this Ankush is also important. In the earlier times, when there used to be even kings, they were in some way democratic. They used to discuss those affairs with the Council of Ministers in the Darbar, and then draw a conclusion and take the decision. So it's actually, the decision used to come because of some viewpoints which emerged from the society, and they are brought into the Darbar by some of the ministers, and finally decisions were taken. So it is an indirect form of democracy, but in any case, I think opinion of the people, those who are affected because of some decisions, I think that opinionating on the Facebook is fine. But the problem arises when people will start unnecessarily, for the sake of it, start opposing. You know very well that it is a good decision, and it will, maybe while implementing there are problems and challenges, but it's a good decision for the country. And still, just because my opinion is different or my ideology is different, and I will oppose for the opposition's sake and create a lot of ruckus in that, that is bad. And sometimes we also go on board and do some of the activities which are anti-national, which is bad actually. Whereas you have to be passionate citizens of this country, and for the sake of the country, if there is something wrong happening from the government, we have every right, and we should use that right in order to course correct.
Just a few words from my end, as I understood from sir, and I'd like to share with my students also, to the student community in general, from the Voice of India platform, that sir said, if you do anything, do it from your heart, not for the only heck of it. One. Second is, try to remember, I have also seen, sir, for the last so many years, that politics is a 24 hours profession. It's not a part-time profession. What glitters is not gold. But as he said, as sir rightly said, and I do endorse, that whatever we see outside is only the external part. The internal part takes hours and hours of involvement. Really, you cannot have any personal life of your own. The whole life is dedicated to your, be a councillor, be a MLA, be an MP, be any minister. You have to actually listen to the people. It's so difficult running a single family, and it's so difficult to run a state and the country. So just making a tweet, talking on the social media, giving an advice is something, but shaping the policy of the nation, taking the welfare of the people is a huge, huge task. And we'd like to know, sir, I'll continue from here. You talked of leadership. We would like to know the Voice of India would like to know, what are the leadership qualities you talked about, a leader leading any policy or leading any state or a country? What are the kind of leadership qualities that the youth of India should have to go forward in life, to make a difference to their own lives as to the life of the nation?
I think when you talk about leadership, the leadership may be in the educational institute as a head of the department, principal, director, vice chancellor. It could be leaders like the ministers who are there in the government, whether state or the central. There could be CEOs of the company, managing directors of the company, or in the society there are NGOs. There are even several activities which happen, whether it is in the sports field, cultural field, art field. I think leadership is common across the board. one of the important characteristics of the leader or the leadership is that you have to understand whom you are addressing. I think that is grounds up approach. So all the stakeholders which are under your umbrella, your ambit, you must understand what they all are expecting and their expectations, how can I meet, how I can make them feel one with us, and that is what is called as team building. So no leader can be successful without a concrete, committed, passionate team. So that has to come from the inspiration of the leader. Leader has to provide that motivation and inspiration to the entire team members. And for that, your commitment and passion, which should be very, very clearly visible. It is not just in paper and theory, but in practice. Every action that we do is observed by the people. And if you are not walking the talk, I think you will never be a good leader. And secondly, leader has to be a listener, good listener. And we talk about different communication skills in colleges also. I say communication skills does not mean only speaking ability. It is also writing ability. Good draft of a letter or a report is also important. Reading skills are also important. You must be able to read large voluminous reports at the shortest possible time. But last but not the important communication skill is that of listening. So you have to listen carefully what others are likely to say or want to say. And many a times leaders or many of them in the positions of power, when the other person starts talking even one or two sentences, as though we are the Paramatman and we understand everything, we stop them and say, I know, I understood now, and start replying. I think that is the worst thing which a leader can do. They should have a patient listening capability to be developed, have to be having that composure which should be there. And last but not the least, the most important other character it is, they must be humane, because they should treat with all others equally amongst all the people whom they are dealing with, and with compassion, with the honesty and integrity that is required.
Thank you, sir. I'll just like to just summarize what sir said for the heck of it, so that people of India remembers the voice, what Voice of India said, what a person of the stature of Anil, Professor Anil Shastrabuddhe, the chairman of All India Council for Technical Education, said. He said, and I quote, and I'm trying to just point it down in my own words, that a leader should have integrity, should have the ability to delegate, he should have a good communication skill, have self-awareness, have gratitude, have the learning agility, have to be influence people, have empathy, have courage, have respect, and build trust with their team. What he wanted to say, leadership is a decision, it's a choice. You look to the person to the left and the right, not to blame anything. Learn by, if you take credit, if you have to take also the ownership of having the failures. And last but not the least, he pointed out very, very effectively, is that you should be a very good listener. We have forgot to listen to people. We are all very engaged in talking to people. So be the last to speak. Take the opinion of the people so they get heard. They're feeling that they are getting heard. Their opinions are being counted, and be humble and gratitude. Remember, chair is not you. People are respecting you. You're not respecting you, your chair. So remember, when you go up the steps, you have to behave well with the people, because these are the same people you are going to meet when you come down the steps. So leaders will only have followers, and they should have clear vision, articulate the word so that they follow love. And love is that which will bring the passion in you. Love your work, not the position or the chair. Love your work. Everywhere the passion will come out and people will respect you. Sir, we will go on to the next question, next round of discussion, which is very important round at this point of time. You know, and we have seen that an astounding 34 years since education policy was last revised, India is again at the cusp of a glorious and historic reform with the announcement of the National Education Policy 2020. Timely and progressive National Education Policy marks a monumental development in the country's education system. Do you believe in that? And words on the education policy from the horse's mouth, from Professor Anil Shastrabuddhe, the chairperson of All India Council of Technical Education, who shapes so many thousands and thousands of technical education like us throughout the whole country of India, and also affects the people around the globe through its alumni and students. It's up over to you, sir, for the national education policy in detail, sir.
So the national education policy has come after a gap of 34 years. We all are aware, first policy was communicated in 1968, then next one 86. It was tweaked a little bit in 1992, but this policy has come after 86, after 34 years, and therefore it is a revolutionary one. The revolutionary one because the times have changed. What existed in 1980s no more exists today with the advancement of technology in different domains. There are new areas which have emerged which were not even imagined. Artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, machine learning, deep learning, robotics, 3D printing, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality. You have cloud computing, cyber security. I think these are all areas which never existed prior to 1980s. And therefore, the policy did not even think about how technology can enable education. Now is the time, having experienced in the last 3 decades, a variety of new things which have happened. And this COVID-19 and policy fortunately came exactly during the transit of this COVID-19 crisis, where the education had to become online. And therefore, the preparation for that, whether we knew COVID-19 will come, definitely not. But still, there was a sort of preparation all over the globe, whether it is massive online open courses on one side, online education and the content being delivered through internet, whether it is YouTube, whether it is platforms like Zoom, which we are using, or whether Microsoft Teams, whether it is WebEx platform, whether it is the platform where the other type of activities happened earlier in our own country called Amruta's A-View. I think all of that had started happening. Our own indigenous books had also come. So I think it is the transitional change or a transformational change which is looking at by the new education policy at the right juncture. But however, other significant things which earlier policies also talked about, they are repeated. I will tell you a couple of things because it's a very, very elaborate thing. If I can go on, it will go on for an hour or so, but I would like to be as brief and as crisp as possible. So for example, talk about 3-language formula. It is there right from inception, but never been able to be implemented. So therefore, that being continued, how do we really possibly implement is the more important thing in the respect of 3-language formula. Then coming to autonomy, it has been stated all the time that all the institutions should be autonomous and there must be no system of affiliation of colleges to the universities. University being controlling about 150, 200 odd colleges, their curricula, their examination system, and finally award of the degrees. And this is being talked about right from inception. And for about last 50 plus years from the first policy enunciation, we found that not more than 10% of the colleges are autonomous. Not 3-language formula is implemented in all the states. And therefore, there must be more action-oriented strategy and plan to implement this kind of thing. But what is transformative and what is very significant is how the education has been looked at. Education, rightly pointed out by Swami Vivekananda ji, was that is inherent perfection which is already in man has to be brought out. So education is nothing but the perfection already in man has to be brought out. I'm repeating. And therefore, how do we identify what perfection each individual has? How do we support it? How do we mentor it? How do we bring it out? How do we make it useful to him, his family, and the entire the surroundings? I think this was never thought about. And that's why we were only giving education in terms of one-way traffic of giving courses. Students have to write exam, and examinations were also all based on memory-based or rote learning. We never gave opportunity for students to think, critically think about a topic. How do they understand that topic? How do they apply it? Where do they apply it? How do they analyze that? How do they synthesize the data which is available? How do they become creative, innovative? I think these facets were neither in the examination hall nor in the classroom. And therefore, we were producing sort of what we call as clones of the same breed based on the Macaulayan education. And therefore, we were producing large number of clerks. Despite having the largest possible talent amongst our students, the brilliant brains, we were not able to use and exploit them because of the policy and the nature, the way we were handling our education. So moving away from 10+2 system, the system of 5+3+3+4,
3+4.
which has been implemented or which has been advocated, starts from the age of 3, not at the age of 6. So sometimes there are questions asked, should the students or the child should go to the school at such a young age as 3? But please remember, the first 3 years of that first 5 years is going to be completely playful. There is no going to be any rigorous exercise of teaching learning process. It is a very, very informal way of learning in terms of learning not just 3 languages. I am saying that if you put in your efforts, you can teach a student more than 5 to 6 languages, because that is the impressionist age, very fertile age, where you can pick up words, you can pick up things very, very fast. So any new language, but don't insist on script writing or script reading. If you say stories in different languages, you start in Bengali, same story in Hindi, next day same story in Tamil, same story in Kannada, same story in Urdu. I think students will learn all these languages, because one language which is their mother tongue, which is emphasized in this policy, having learned in that your own mother tongue something, if you migrate to some other language, our base being most of the languages have Sanskrit as the base, the words are similar, and if 70% of the words are known to you, other 30% words which are new, you will start catching up. I think therefore, why 3 language formula? We can go even to the 5 language formula is what I have been advocating all the time. But the nature, the way you have to teach this language is to be different. Then someone picks up interest in a particular language to understand the literature of that language. There are a lot of Jnanapith awardees in Bengali or in Marathi or Kannada compared to other languages. So I want to learn that language. It is freedom to you to start understanding the script, reading the script, writing in that script. That is a later part. And that is why this is very major diversion which has happened. Then playfully, right in the beginning also, involving yourself in activity-based learning. Now you have a garden, you have a lot of butterflies, you have flowers, you count them, you go around them, play with them. You have a lot of games which are available in the school, play school. And if you learn through that methodology, you will understand that school is a place where I would like to go. I have seen many kids where there is forceful making you to mug up something or write something, read something. Students do not like that and they cry. Parents have to force them to make the children to go to school. Whereas if you take them there and they have a lot of friends of the same age, they start playing games with them, they become friends, they become collaborators, they start learning jointly. I think that is the important thing which has been changed. Second one, at the higher level also, after class 12, what is today class 12, it is going to be after 5+3+3+4, that is 15 years. First 3 years being little dormant in some sense, but more active in terms of games. So after the 12th standard, if someone comes into a particular stream and he does not fit there or he doesn't like it, he is having no chance of coming out of that and going into another field. He will have to quit and again restart. I think that is where the change has been made, that you can do 1 year, you can quit, you can get a certificate, you can bank your credits, you do 2 years, you get a diploma, you bank your credits, keep in your account, you go to some other place, take some other course, and a multidisciplinary approach that no single discipline university should be there, whether it is engineering or medical or law or something like that. But every university must have all disciplines depending on the interest. Apart from your normal, say, engineering, one should be in a position to take music. Someone who is doing physics must be able to take mathematics. Someone who is doing, suppose, psychology, he must be allowed to do some kind of computer science if he wants. I think this kind of flexibility which has been brought in terms of credit framework is going to be a game changer. A student, whatever he likes, he can start learning, he can start exploring. He has failed in understanding his what is his trait or what he wants to do. He can change the course much easier than what earlier we used to do. There is a lot of capacity building, a lot of teacher education emphasized here, professional education, the skill education or the vocational education and the teacher education. They have all been taken together, and ultimately holistic, inclusive, access, equity, quality-based, accountable, affordable, autonomy-based, accreditation-based education. I think these are very important things. And last but not the least, the framework for regulation is going to be very, very light. And a statement which has been made is the regulation must be light but tight. Light is you should not have inspection Raj going and troubling institutions quite often that whether you have this or not that. But based on what is necessary, what is desired, the institution should know and they should transparently display what all they have onto their website. And if there is a complaint, only then the regulatory bodies should act. Otherwise, they should not act. And when they act, they should be very, very strongly acting on the institution. If they are giving fake data and cheating people, this should not be tolerated by the regulators. So it is light but tight. And many people use the words disruptive. I think I will often use the word transformative. It is aspirational. It is for the 21st century, creating new yuva for Atmanirbhar Bharat. And therefore, I feel this policy is going to be a sort of game changer in many ways.
Sir, I find that there has been universal access. The policy has ensured universal access from early childhood to higher education, integration of 2 crore out of school children, and concentrated efforts which is directed at socio-economically disadvantaged groups. So will the policy ensure the last mile delivery which is focused at?
Yes, yes, absolutely. See, this policy is one which wants everyone to be empowered. And therefore, first of all, as far as the 5+3+3+4 education is concerned, the idea is this must reach all the 100% citizens of the country. That means our gross enrollment ratio in the school education must be 100%. Today also we have from a very low value, we have come to nearly 90-95% in most of the states. Some states even 100% even today, but whole country must reach 100%. As far as higher education is concerned, at the time of independence, we were just mere 0.7%. Gradually, we have come to about 27%, 26.7 plus. So at any point, we must be 27, 28% now. But what is targeted is 50% in the next 10, 15 years. So that means every child who is born, if he is interested in higher education, that education must be available, accessible. And now the other part is, a lot of emphasis is also given on online education and distance education. Thereby, if we create infrastructure, which is internet connectivity in the nooks and corners of the country, and accessibility in terms of data to our children from rural areas, remote areas, tribal areas, mountainous areas, and then in that case, by staying where they are, they will be in a position to get the best possible education, the degrees that they desire or deserve to have, and therefore it is an empowering. And one more thing which is talked about is like our special economic zones. There is a talk about special education zones. That means any small locality or district where there are no universities, there is no education facility, government should put extra effort to create infrastructure in those places so that children from that region should not be deprived of that education. We have said, all said and done, children from those places where there is no facility will have to travel a long distance, maybe 100, 200 kilometers, sometimes 500 kilometers, and then join a college. And then the expenditure that is involved not only in the tuition fee, but also in terms of living expenses, whether it is hostels or the food is so expensive that many families will not be able to afford. But if it is there in their own town or city or small village, I think they can easily access that education. And that's why special education zones is also being talked about in this policy, which will really make empowered India.
Sir, it says that the new policy says that early childhood care education will be delivered through a new curriculum as well as a play and activity-based pedagogy. What is meant by that? It says that activity-based pedagogy, play and activity-based pedagogy. What has been meant by early childhood care and education through activity, through a play and activity-based pedagogy?
In fact, I did tell that earlier itself when I talked about education policy, but I will reiterate few other things. So the entire education should be in the form of joy, in the form of games, in the form of play. It is not sitting in one place and trying to write the script. I will just give you a few examples of if you want to teach the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 for a child of the age of 3 or 4. So what should you do? you have some kind of say pencils or the chalks or the even chocolates or you go to the garden and show the flowers and the petals of the flowers and ask them to start counting 1, 2, 3. They will understand. In the class, make the students stand one after the other and ask them to count, and then say that if they are divided, how will they be? 7 will become 4 and 3. I think arithmetic, multiplication, even the difficult subjects can be taught in the form of games. By making students to start acting on various types of games that are available. Then, in terms of developing the culture of innovation or what we call creativity, you have, all of us, some of us who are well-to-do probably must have played Lego. Lego toys are there, and there will be a lot of connections which you have to make and unmake it and again make it. So you see the creativity from the same set of one box of small items. Some building will be created, a dam will be created, a bridge will be created. I think they understand how something is connected with this other part. Then you take them to the agriculture field. You show them, if you sow a seed, how it takes some 4 or 5 days for sprouting and the small leaf coming out of that stem, coming out of that soil, and how over a period of time it grows, how it requires sunlight. There are excellent experiments. You cover the plant with a small pot with a small hole on one side, and then you will see that the plant will turn around and go across the cover which you have put, and then you will be able to show that why sunlight is required and how it is looking for sunlight. I think these are the examples, both in science, in terms of art, in terms of music, in terms of dance, that you make the class so lively that a child should start feeling that when is the next day of the class going to come, and not that why is the class is going to be there and why holiday is not there. So they should feel that why holiday is there, holiday is not required. That is the way our learning should happen in the early age, in terms of learning, as I said earlier, languages, in terms of games, in terms of science, in terms of history. And if you do that, I think the entire education will be playful and joyful.
Sir, I find that this policy marks a departure from the archaic practices and pedagogy and the dismantling of the rigid distinction between the curricular, extracurricular, and the co-curricular subjects in school. So will it going to help or going to mess up with, the students are going to mess up with, because physics you can take with arts and stuff like that. So there has been a lot of talk on it, that this distinction being dismantled. Will it disrupt or will it help in our considering our human skills?
See, I will tell you, it should not be taken to the other extreme. That is also not good. I'll just give an example.
Right.
Suppose a student in the college or wherever it is, even in high school probably, or wherever it is allowed, if he starts taking all variety of subjects. See, I take one course on the music, another course on dance, another course on drama, another course on painting, another course on sculpting, another course on physics, another course on chemistry, another course on history, another course on psychology, another course on philosophy. Well, I will be nowhere actually. That is also equally true. But that doesn't mean a student who has joined engineering, he has to finish some 160 odd credits. But out of that, even if only 120 credits of mechanical engineering that student takes, and other 40 credits he chooses very effectively to learn, say, music, or to learn yoga. I think both these things will complement the learning of mechanical engineering. So he has to rightly choose other courses, maybe 2 or 3 disciplines and not some 100 disciplines. And then he will be like jack of all and master of none, what the statement we often say, it may lead to that as well. But that does not mean that we should restrict a student from taking other courses. And that is the spirit behind that. So people may go to the other extreme. That is not right. Today, the other extreme was there. So if you are in mechanical engineering, you have to read and learn only mechanical engineering. Even if you have taste of some music, and I want to take a couple of courses on classical music, whether Hindustani classical or the southern stream, which is the Dakshinati music or the Ravindra Sangeet, I am not allowed. So this is also equally bad.
Sir, the one thing which is has become very viral as in our social media terms, as you said, that the NEP talks of vocal for local. What is this vocal for local? So what does that really aim at from your mouth, sir, from the horse's mouth?
Then you see, actually, there are many things which have happened in the past. I will give previous examples rather than the current examples. See, when in 1974 or in 1998, both the times, we did nuclear explosion. There were sudden sanctions from all the countries, Western countries, advanced, so-called advanced countries. They said, we will not give you supercomputer in the first case. In the second time, they said, we will not give you for launching of satellites, liquid propulsion engine and the technology behind that. But what happened? When we were forced, we came out successfully, developed all on our own. We took time. It was not overnight. We had to spend a couple of years' time. We had our own first parallel computing machine, Param supercomputer, developed in CDAC in Pune. Then similarly in Trivandrum, we developed our own cryogenic engine, which was based on liquid propulsion. So I think all of this was possible because we were thrown to the corner and said that we will not give you. So similarly, in the present context, if we are being overpowered by some enemy country and therefore we are to be so dependent on them, that is not a right spirit. And therefore to come out of that, we need to be local so that we will be able to develop everything internally in our own country. And that is why vocal for local. So we want to produce our own products and use them here. We may use and we may also export them. But first thing, whatever we need for ourselves, why can't we do it ourselves? There may be a few exceptions which for some more time we may have to import. For example, very recently, only last week, we received 5 Rafale aircraft. You know, that is very much necessary for the defense of the country and we don't have capability today. So there is nothing wrong in importing such kind of items for some time. But as far as we start speaking the language of vocal for local, we will not think about manufacturing even Rafale kind of an aircraft within the country. And therefore, vocal for local is you try to produce everything that is required for our country internally ourselves and make ourselves, the other terminology which is used is Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we become self-reliant, self-sufficient.
Sir, just like to know, since you act as the chairperson of AICTE, and the new education policy says that statutory institutions like AICTE and UGC are going to be merged or something. So what is the next line of actions? Your views on that or your address on that, sir?
My talk on this is especially in terms of new education policy. There is an enunciation. There is some work to be done on that, and then an act has to be passed in the parliament. Not both houses of parliament have to pass the bill, and only then it becomes an act and then comes into existence. So it may take some time, but modalities, etc., have to be worked out. I will give you one concrete example to make you understand why this has been made or is required. We have been working in fragments. We have never been able to appreciate cross-disciplinary, interdisciplinary activity in terms of development of new products and processes. And we always have been working in silos. I remember before I joined AICTE, in many of the inspections, the teams when they went, and if the college is running 2 or 3 different programs under even AICTE, forget about others. Suppose architecture was under AICTE, pharmacy was under AICTE, management was under AICTE, engineering was under AICTE. Out of these 4, 5, 6 programs which are covered under AICTE, if the college was running 2 or 3 programs, the inspection team will ask them where is the boundary between that program and this program, means that college and this college. As though they are like enemies and there is a boundary wall required between the two. And if it was not there, they were not giving approvals, I think, to that extent. But today we have now liberated. Even before this policy came in, we said forget about a technical program, even a non-technical program, like if someone wants to run an ITI, if someone wants to run your arts or science or commerce program, or you want to run a school inside the premises, I think there is nothing wrong as long as the requirements of each one of those programs are available independently. Not too much of sharing. Sharing is also permitted. For example, a playground, if it is idling the whole day, why should every institute should have a playground? All institutions together can share a playground, can share a car shed, can share a scooter parking space, can share a canteen, can even share a library, can share many things But if you want the labs to be used by your students for a specific purpose, you don't share them, because otherwise your students from different domains and practices will not be able to use them. It was a simple logic which we applied, and that is what is being talked about here in this particular policy, that universities and colleges should be multidisciplinary, there should be no restriction, and that is how all these institutions either have to expand to include all other variety of courses, or amalgamate, coalesce, and then come forward. Now, this is as far as the processes of the institution side is concerned. Now, I will come back to the regulatory framework which you have talked about. Suppose there is a deemed university. I am giving a classic example. They are running a program which is in medical science. They are also running a program which is a pharmacy program or an architecture program. And they are also probably running an arts program. Now, see, the kind of conditions which the institution, that means that deemed university, has to go through. Being a deemed university which was given this status by UGC and MHRD, they have to, satisfy the mandate of UGC and MHRD. So anytime MHRD may have their dictates and they may visit and find out what you are doing, not doing. So they are answerable to them. AICTE is also having architecture and pharmacy under its act. Therefore, for architecture program, AICTE will also go. For pharmacy also, AICTE will go and inspect. For pharmacy, Pharmacy Council of India will go. For architecture, Council of Architecture will go. And for medical, which is also being run under the same umbrella, Medical Council of India will go. And then if they have nursing or some other programs like dental, those councils also will go and try to inspect this institution. And if you satisfy one, somewhere you will miss satisfying another agency, you will be in doldrums. I think that is what is being ironed out in the process. Therefore, single regulatory authority does not create any complexes. Whatever is required for all the programs to be run, one single committee will look into it. If it is satisfactory, it will be given approval, and institutions will have a better day than being tortured by many such organizations. So that is the first part which I would like to say. The second part is, what has been stated is simple words. There is an apex body which is called as Higher Education Commission of India. That is a small body but very high-end upper body. Below that, there are 4 verticals. Each one of those verticals have a specific function. One of them is regulatory function. The second one vertical has what is known as the function of funding. The third one has the accreditation. Fourth one is standard setting and the norms that are required to be followed in order to become a better graduate in that discipline that has to be decided by that particular standard setting body. So if you have such 4 bodies, the existing organizations, they can be given a redistributed work. Someone who is doing major work of approvals, they can be given the regulatory work of the other body also. Someone who is doing a major funding job, they can be given the job of funding of the other organizations to their umbrella, under their ambit. I think if you do that redistribution, existing organizations with a different name and with a set of some people being transferred from here to there to here, you neither require new buildings, you neither require new people, you neither have to retrench anyone, but still manage within the existing resources that the government has already set up, create new bodies with the new names, basically, with exchange of some people, exchange of some works that are being done, that is redistribution of work, and will carry out. I think should be no worry. In fact, it will streamline all the processes and the difficulties which many institutions faced in the past from the regulatory bodies will dissolve.
So thank you, sir. Thank you for elaborate address on this education policy, which our viewers had been duly waiting from. So we learned that everything is going to work to make the nation more powerful. There will be a skill gap analysis, practice-based curriculum, an internship with local vocational experts, and the Lok Vidya, which echoes the Prime Minister's clarion call of being vocal for local. And I'll go to the next topic, but remember what Sir said, that Swami Vivekananda what said about education. that education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. So we are working as a nation, we are working for that manifestation of the perfection which already we have. So it's that we are working for. Sir, our last topic for today's discussion, I'll go, is the pre-COVID and the post-COVID education. You know that for the last 5 months, there had been hardly any classes. There had been classes on the social platform as we are doing right at this point of time. But how does AICTE see these technical courses being conducted in online forms? Because, you know, some of the weight labs are being very difficult to be conducted, and does the technical guys, the engineers, the diploma holders, and the other persons will have. So how is the COVID education, how is the post-COVID education, it will be with respect to the pre-COVID education? If you can highlight us on that, sir.
See, all the time we were in the pre-COVID era, and although there were technological possibilities, we never explored possibilities of online education to the extent that we should have. And that is why during this crisis period, suddenly we landed up into trouble. Some institutions who were well prepared, they were able to transgress very easily and then started using online education. Somewhere they were not so prepared, they had to struggle a little bit and did that online education. Someone who were not at all prepared had great difficulty, and they are still facing difficulty. I think these are the three different types of institutions which we had. But having learned lessons that through technology, there is a possibility of online learning, and not only online, there can be synchronous and asynchronous learning. See, it is not that everything need to be synchronous. It is not that student and teacher have to be in the face-to-face, either in the classroom or in the online mode all the time. Sometimes student at his own will and wish, depending on when he is free, when he feels his mood is good, conveniently he can learn things. Today also, even if you are bringing them to the classroom during the pre-COVID era, do you think that 100% of the students were giving their heart and mind into the classroom? No. Only those, some of them who were interested, very keen, they were learning. Some of them were at the back end preparing those aeroplanes and shooting them at the faculty members once in a while. And there were others who were pretending to be attentive, but their mind and the entire thought process was outside, doing something, you know, playing games or thinking about some movie or thinking about home, something else. So I think that is what is most important. Therefore, moving away from the face-to-face mode into the online mode. Many people said that in this online mode, there cannot be any concentration because student is not in front of you, he may not be learning. I think that was happening even in the classroom. I'm giving many examples. Whereas if the student is having the interest, if he wants to learn, then whether it is classroom or whether it is online, he will continue to learn. And therefore, that is what we have learned during this COVID time. And making use of this during post-COVID era, how we can engage both online as well as in the face-to-face classroom education, so that the best part of both of them can be used. I'm giving examples. There are certain things where a collaborative activity in a classroom is much more powerful and effective, especially if you want to talk about some of the skills which people have to use hands and then work, whether some of the wet experiments which you said, wet labs. I think they are the ones where you have to actually handle. Without that, you can't learn.
Yes, sir.
And there are others where you can do simulation-based experiments and learn, even experiment. I'm telling you, some of the experiments will be much better in the simulation mode, in the augmented reality, virtual reality mode than the actual experiment. Because in an actual experiment, with a large engine, suppose I take an engine, suppose I take a turbo machine. So you put in fuel and then it will burn and then something happens inside, whether it is the piston which will be moving or whether it is the rotor which is rotating and the power is generated, all of that is happening inside. What is visualized from outside is probably some noise and some fuel going in and some meters on which you will see the torque generated, power generated, speed of the engine, speed of the turbo machine is all what you measure. Otherwise, what is actually happening inside, no one has seen. And to make that or explain that possibly, what we do is we build cut section models in the laboratories and show that how the turbine blades look like. You know, Whereas in the augmented reality, a person can actually physically move inside. He will become part of the blade. He will rotate along with the blade. He will feel that sense actually more intensely than what he would have otherwise done when doing the experiment. And therefore, there is some power of technology in terms of whether it is simulation-based experiment. I'll come to simulation-based experiment. A simulation-based software which is written to conduct an experiment can be used simultaneously by tens and thousands of people. Whereas a physical experiment on a single equipment at a given time, only one set of people can operate. One student can use it and other 10 people can surround that and take down the readings and watch it. Whereas in a simulation-based experiment, thousands of people can simultaneously do it. You can change the parameters much more easier in a computer-based experiment. So there is some strength. But that does not mean that everything can be done in an online mode or in a virtual mode or in a augmented reality mode. Because ultimately, if you want to drive a car, if you want to be a pilot and take off the aircraft, only simulation-based trained man, if he is given a Boeing or if he is given a Mercedes car, do you think that he will be able to start off? No, he will make an accident. And therefore, some amount of training initially in the virtual mode, then in the real mode is necessary in many domains, including what you rightly said is in terms of some of the wet labs. And more important, forget about that. In the research, if you want to do something first time, your computer will not be able to do much. So you need to go to the laboratory, you'll have to do many experiments. Some will fail, some will succeed. And therefore, the importance of the physical spaces of laboratory and the classes cannot be denied. But at the same time, in the post-COVID era, having learned that people can learn through the online mode, if you do not have a faculty in a particular area and depriving a student of not allowed to learn that subject or the elective, if you throw open that elective from a person of his choice from anywhere in the country, from best institution in the country, and if that course is available online, either in the SWAYAM or in the whatever mode, if he does register for that course and learns from the best faculty in that domain, what is wrong in that? And in fact, that is complementary or supplementary. And a student's taste will also be satisfied that I wanted to learn machine learning, but in my college, there is no one who is an expert in machine learning. Then how do I do it? So if I take a course of machine learning from the best faculty from IIT Madras or maybe IIT Bombay, I will be able to learn that. So this flexibility is brought in, and that's why in the post-COVID era, we have to use both the modes, and ultimately campuses will have to be there. Not everything can be online. You have to have sports. You can't have sports on the computer screen. You have to run, you have to jog, you have to sweat yourself. Then not only that, you will have to also interact with people. You have to learn emotions. You have to become empathetic. You have to learn drama, music, dance in a first one-to-one phase. And all of this can happen only when you are in the physical spaces and all-round development, whatever we say of the personality, to become a good citizen, an honest citizen, value-based citizen. I think we need the colleges and college space and university spaces where a lot of intense debate, discussion takes place.
Thank you, sir. I kept on saying that good thoughts leads to good actions, and good actions leads to good habits, and good habits leads to good character, and good character leads to good destiny. And I find from the words of Sir Professor Shastra that he is thinking of good thoughts. And you know that I keep on saying that strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss people, and so it's a strong mind of Shastra Buddha was discussing ideas, and it will lead to a good destiny. Remember, students, that you can never cross the ocean unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. And that's what he's doing. Sir, we are coming to the end of our discussion. I would like to, that this is a pandemic time. You have said that post-COVID, it will be a blended method of education. And this method of education, we have realized the strengths of it as well as the weakness of it. So we'll take the strengths, blend it with the offline methods, and we'll have the best education. At the same time, sir, students are in their residences for the last 5 months. It's 5 months and over, which a total lockdown has happened. So how do the students get motivated? And I'll also talking of the engineering students who is looking forward for their jobs after their final years. So how do students at in general, and students, the engineering students, keep motivated for the rest of the time, that still after which there should be a blended normal and then a normal.
I think most important thing, we should reflect them, our past. When I graduated way back in 1980, there was no training and placement cell in our college. Maybe few IITs had, but otherwise most institutions did not have. What we used to do after getting a degree from the university, we used to look at the advertisement in the newspaper and then apply there, a couple of interviews, 5 months, 6 months, 8 months. Some of them waited for 1 year, 2 years, and then we used to get the jobs. I, of course, went to higher education. That's a different matter. But many of my classmates had to struggle to get a job for about 6 months to 1 year. And this was a common thing. There's nothing new about it. But because huge number of colleges came up, there were training and placement cells established. The companies came for the placement to the colleges, and therefore jobs became available. Sometimes because of the huge demand that was there in IT companies, our people started getting jobs while they were in the third year itself, and they started neglecting even their project of the final year. I think we have seen it is all cyclic. And in this pandemic, even if someone has lost some 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, I think we should not worry. Look at the other face. When other people were waiting for 1 year, we can also wait for 1 year, number one. Number two, for a lifespan of about 80 plus years, which all of us today are living, our average, longevity has increased, our lifespan from about 60, 70 in our time, when people used to retire at around 55, and by about 65, they were so old that they were not able to do anything. Today, we find very active people at the age of 80, and therefore, probably when our younger people now, whom I'm talking to, when they become older, probably they will live for 100 years or 120 years. And therefore, with this such a long span of life which God has endowed with us, we must not worry about 6 months to 1 year. Please use it as much as possible, as effectively as possible, in learning as many things as possible. But don't think this as loss. This is an experience. This is a gain which you are gaining for the entire lifetime. Because this kind of pandemic probably comes once in a century. Earlier one was in 1919 or 17, somewhere around that. Today, we are in 2020. So I think pandemic also does not come quite often. So I think this is an experience where how society functioned, how we helped each other in spite of the crisis that we were in. How did we continue our education? How did we conduct our examination? How did we support each other for food, for accommodation? I think people have helped each other. There was no chaos despite such a large population of 1.3 billion. What gave this motivation? I think our culture, our ethos, our values, which have come from thousands of years, have helped us. People who lost their jobs in the cities, in fact, many of them even walked to their respective villages. Some of them, of course, went by trains subsequently when the trains were opened, but people were giving them food in the platform. Many social organizations were helping on the way. Some other villagers were giving them food. I think this is just simply fantastic experience for all of us. And we should tell this to the next generation that should there be any problem anytime, do not be afraid, be confident, let us overcome. And this is a transitory phase. This corona will not remain forever. We will find the vaccine, we will find the solution, this will be taken care of, and our life will become as normal. But the lessons learned should be made use of in the whole lifetime later.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your positive words, which is required at this point of time. So students, don't get worried. We will get over this time. As sir tells, we'll definitely get over this time. Out of a span of 80 years, 6 months to 1 year's time is nothing. Trust us. Trust, sir. It's nothing, and it's going to be get over. We'll go back to the old normal, maybe a blended normal in between and an old normal at the end. So we have to make use of this time. It says that attitude is something which makes our marks alive. So attitude should be very positive. We should have a positive attitude towards life. Take it as an experience of a lifetime which generations may not have. So we are fortunate to have that experience and go ahead with life. And success, as I define, is that which bounces back from failure. And sir started with leadership, and like a true leader, he said, he ended with a smiling face, that it's a time of getting new experiences and time for people and students to hone skills so that they can come out more successful at the end of the day. I'll end with a quote on success. It says, success is failure turned inside out. the silver tint of the clouds of doubt, and you can never tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems so far. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. Stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things seem worse that you must not quit. It's when things seem worse that you must not quit. It's when things seem worse that you must not quit. I'll end with these lines and thanks, sir, from the bottom of my heart, sir. It was not only a pleasure, it was a kind of a blessing to talk with you one-to-one and get the insight of education policy leadership, and also on how the pre and the post-COVID education is going to tell, as well as your opinion on the students' involvement in policy. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar. Dhanyavad.
Yeah, so thank you, sir. Thank you, Anil sir, as well as Sujoy Biswas sir from last two sessions. Special thanks to Sujoy Biswas sir. He is taking the session from last 2 hours. So thank you, sir. And Anil sir, that's great. It's like from the time I heard about this new education policy, we all people were having some doubt that what's the exact thing. So after getting the whole detail of 1 hour, we are like, now I can tell to my parents. I think 2 days before I was having discussion with my parents, they were discussing with me. I was not having the whole idea. So I was stuck in the between. Now I can show the video to them and they can say, see, this is the benefit we are going to get. And thank you so much for the valuable time, sir. From your busy schedule, you have given something across more than 1 hour. That's a great blessing for all the people who are connected to right now. I think more than 5,000 people viewership we are having in Facebook. And here we are having something close to 50 or 60 viewership in this host, the particular private meeting we are having.